Yo, it's your new friend Zenrad, and I hope you're having a great day. There are almost too many weapons in Elden Ring, and that can make it hard to decide what weapons to use. The best way to find a weapon for yourself is to match the weapon class to your playstyle and then pick from those choices. Personally, I've always loved strength weapons because I usually always create some kind of poise breaking build, but with the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, they've given us a unique variant of poise breaking weapon, the Great Katana. Poise-breaking builds were usually left with only comically large weapons that are slow and a lot of the time also short, which is bad. Additionally, they almost never come with a built-in status effect or damage type, but the Great Katanas are just that guy. Not only do they do crazy good poise damage with all of their attacks, they also cause bleed, which, in case you haven't noticed in the few years Elden Ring has been out, bleed is broken. Now, they aren't perfect. They are slower than a ton of other weapons, especially at applying their bleed, due to their large size, but it's not slow enough to be bad. And they have incredible reach. The Great Katana is my favorite weapon class in all of Elden Ring, and I'm happy to test if you can beat Elden Ring with only Great Katanas. Here is our protagonist for this video. His name is Chopper, and you may recognize him as that uncle that everybody has for some reason. For this run, we obviously would have to enter the DLC to get any of the 3 Great Katanas, but thankfully Uncle Chopper knows one of the devs at FromSoft, and they sent us over a save file that starts from the beginning with all of the Great Katanas. Yeah, that's the story, and I'm sticking to it. Alright, so let's talk about the Great Katana while we beat this tutorial. Never mind. I guess we'll do that later. After getting creeped on by Melina while we sleep, and she drops us a few beers for later, we meet up with her at a nearby gas station for the ability to level up and, you guessed it, a Honda Accord.
Offer you an accord.
Yeah, I bet that's the first time you've ever heard that one before, huh? The first boss of this run is, of course, the first boss in every run, Margit. I haven't played Elden Ring in a couple of months, so I used this as a warm-up for the rest of the run, as I usually complete them in one sitting. It did take me some time to adjust, but Margit is one of those bosses where there aren't any huge cheese strats. If you want to have an easier time fighting him, you just have to level up your weapon as high as you can before fighting him. But for this run, Uncle Chopper kept his weapon at level 0, because we're both unfamiliar with how strong the DLC weapons are in base game Elden Ring. And honestly, I was a bit shocked. The Great Katana kinda shreds, even at level 0. The only thing that we were really getting hit by was Margit's light dagger, and he only uses that when you go in at the wrong time, so I was happy to take the damage trade. While Unk chops this man down, I'll give you a little backstory on Margit. And I do mean little. There actually wasn't much lore on Margit, but it did confirm for me the biggest thing I wanted to know. And that's if Morgott, one of the later bosses you have to fight, is indeed Margit. The answer is yes. They are the same being. There's little on Morgott as well, but for the sake of not spoiling his lore for his section of the video, I'll leave you with a question instead. Is Margit a shadow of Morgott? We see examples of shadows throughout the game, but one more specifically is Golden Godfrey, the Yellow Spirit, and Godfrey himself. The reason I draw this comparison is because in the intro cutscene to Margit's fight, he literally spawns in as a Yellow Spirit. He doesn't stay a Yellow Spirit, but it feels too close to not compare them. I don't know, what do you think? Also, I wanted to say that this fight with the Great Katana was pretty easy. You can't fully charge a power attack as often as I'd like due to the odd length of the Great Katana's charge attack, but it still bleeds and it deals good damage even unupgraded. Also, can we shine the spotlight on the jump attack animation for this weapon? It's friggin' sick. It makes me want to do more jumping attacks. I love it. Next up on the chopping block, we have Godric the Grafted. Godric to me is what Vort is to Dark Souls 3. He's always easy, although it did get too close for comfort towards the end. I blame that mostly on the fact that I haven't played Elden Ring in a while. Also, not only is he a freak who likes to attach the limbs of other beings onto himself, his story is also that of a coward. And it's kinda sad. Godric is a descendant of the Golden Lineage, a bloodline that begins with Queen Marika the Eternal and our first consort, Godfrey. Being of distant relation of Marika's line, Godric's blood was diluted, and he was considered the runt of the litter. During the event called the Shattering, which is when all the children of America started fighting each other after the Elden Ring was shattered, Godric was relentlessly harassed and eventually left Lendil, royal capital. He did so by stealing multiple treasures, including the Mimic's Veil, and hiding amongst the womenfolk. For those of you who don't know, the Mimic's Veil is an item in Elden Ring that, at the cost of FP, allows you to transform into objects in the surrounding area to hide. So Godric was picked on so bad for being weak that he stole mom's jewelry and hid amongst the common folk to escape their grasp. Eventually, Godric made his way south, settling in Limgrave, and taking up residence in Stormvale Castle, a refuge to hide from General Radahn. He also used the refuge to practice grafting, the grotesque act that involves attaching parts of other living beings to oneself to gain power. There's a little more lore on Godric that I can't cover in this video, but I also like the idea of leaving you with something to search for yourself in these videos. So like my last challenge run lore video, I'll let you in on the juiciest stuff, but if you like the story of a character, I encourage you to look them up. I'll leave you with this. In Godric's second phase transition, where he loudly proclaims, "Bear witness," he's talking to his one and only idol, Godfrey. The performance of the Great Katana against Godfrey is, like most weapons, it's good. We get the poise breaks to riposte like normal, we get the bleeds, and the weapon's R1 is long enough to slash the dragon arm when he reaches it out. I attempt to do it a few times and miss, but that's because I don't remember the timings. Godric is easy for me, and I always just kind of turn off my brain and fight him, so there's not much else to say. The Great Katana so far has been killing it. I'm not surprised though. There are a ton of DLC weapons that are just good. I think it has to do with the fact that the DLC costs more money in addition to the base game, so everything in it has to be pretty valuable for the most common player, which usually means having strong gear. And honestly, I don't mind that. I'd like to take a moment here to just say, Marika sucks. She's a terrible being for more reasons than Uncle Chopper has beers. I don't want to spoil any big reveals for later in the video, so I won't be specific here, but she is the reason this Red Wolf of Radagon was abandoned. The only lore we have on Red Wolves as a whole is that they are in fact just giant wolves with red fur that have the ability to cast glintstone sorceries. Some could also manifest golden swords that they would grip with their jaws to perform slashing attacks. Aside from the spoiler that I won't be revealing right now, that's actually it for these pups. And as far as the fight goes, Red Wolf is a glass cannon. Just look out for the flying anime swords and only drink beer when you have a punish window. It's that easy. Also, Uncle took his shirt off for this fight. He said something about challenging the wolf as equals after drinking 7 beers. I don't know. We were lucky enough to convince him to keep his pants on. Weird guy. Before we head to Rennala, I wanted to stop by one of America's trap houses to pick up the wondrous Physic Flask, which Uncle Chopper's pretty sure is just hard alcohol, which he was surprisingly unhappy about. It's like he only drinks beer. We also decided to show off how good the Great Katana is against NPCs. See, it's the best weapon against NPCs. Now, there's a lot of depth surrounding Rennala's lore, so I'm only going to cover the juicy bits. In her youth, Rennala was a prominent champion who charmed the academy with her lunar magic, becoming its master. She later found herself fighting the new champion dispatched by Marika herself, Radagon. They fought in 2 wars against each other, both wars of which there was no clear winner, so instead of pursuing more aggression, Radagon cleansed himself using the Celestial Dew and swore his love to Rennala. They married, of course at the Church of Vows, uniting the House of the Erdtree and the House of the Moon. Rennala gifted Radagon a greatsword bestowed by a Carian queen to honor the long-standing tradition. If you didn't know, that's why Ranni gives you a greatsword after you give her a ring. It is a tradition among the lunar queens. Together, Rennala and Radagon had 3 children, Radahn, Rykard, and Ranni. After Godfrey, the first Elden Lord, was banished from the lands between, Radagon immediately left Rennala's side and became the second husband and king consort of Queen Marika, receiving the title of the second Elden Lord. Queen Marika then made Radagon and Rennala's children her demigod stepchildren. When Radagon departed, he did leave Rennala with that amber egg we see her clutching. This contains the great rune of the unborn, and is what enables us, as in our character, or Uncle Chopper here, to respec our attributes in the game. To finish off Rennala's story, after being left by her husband, she was so heartbroken that she was shunned as the queen. Her students of the Carian royal family rebelled, locking her away in the Grand Library. Super sad, dude. It's super sad. Almost as sad as my sub 1,000 subscriber count. Yep, that just happened. Shameless plug, baby. Okay, next we picked up the medallion halves. Wait a minute. Why the hell am I showing this to you? You don't care about this. This is what you came to see. The Dragon Hunter's Great Katana used against a dragon. There wasn't any lore on old Agheel here. They're just a dragon. Chilling in Limgrave, picking on the weak hollows that roam the land. You could say they're just out here living their best lives. Although I do question the name given to Agheel here. Flying Dragon? It's like saying a walking human Senrad. That just doesn't sound right. It doesn't make any sense. Also, I want you to bear witness to this almost flawless dragon beatdown. The Dragon Hunter's Great Katana is a seriously fun weapon, especially against dragons. And just FYI, this weapon isn't upgraded at all. This is base damage when I have just enough stats to wield it. Oof, damn. That would have been a cool finish. Just as a little treat for the lore heads out there, there's a decent amount of lore surrounding Altus as an area, since it's the very land that Erdtree rests on. And it's connected to all the other major areas, including the Forbidden Lands. It's a fun little geography read, if you're interested. I'll leave a link to the website where all this lore has been coming from, in the description, or in the comments if I forget. Alright, I was going to try to avoid this, but this guy freaking sucks. I hate fighting the Draconic Tree Sentinel, and it's because of his ridiculous AI. Sometimes he chases you all the way to the edge of the cliff. Sometimes he stops at the tree line, just shoots lightning or fireballs at you. And maybe 40% of the time, mid-combat, he'll just stop and walk back towards his starting position. Like, what the hell? That's extremely annoying when I'm trying to cheese him off the ledge. I mean, like, hello? Rude. So, because of that, he doesn't get a lore spotlight. I don't care if it's petty. I didn't even look this guy up. He's not even worth Googling. Next. I couldn't stop him this time. Uncle Chopper shotgunned more Bud Light. I have no idea where he keeps getting these. We ran out of beer like 3 hours ago. He again proclaimed something about fighting on equal terms, stripped his clothes, and started fighting the yellow spirit of Godfrey. I mean, I can't stop him. At least this time he's fighting another old man. Being the first Elden Lord comes with its pros and cons. One of those cons is a long background. So again, we will have to just poke at the main points of this guy's lore. For now, we'll stick to the beginning of his career before he was the first Elden Lord, where he was just a simple warrior by the name of Hoarah. Hoarah was a ferocious champion with a ceaseless lust for battle that led Marika's golden armies in the war against the giant. Hoarah only became Godfrey after he took the spirit of Sarash upon his back. Sarash, the Lord of Beasts, suppresses his rage, allowing him to conduct himself as Marika's first Elden Lord, Godfrey. All I could find on Golden Godfrey is that he is in fact a shade of Godfrey's former self. So that's where I'm going to leave it, because all the other lore is actually about the real flesh and blood Godfrey, and that's for later. As for the fight, I actually really like Godfrey's moveset. There are a lot of windows for punish, and due to the multiple ground attacks he has, you get a lot of jumping attack punishes. And like I mentioned earlier, these are especially fun with the animations of the Great Katana's jump attack. You will see me perform a lot of charged and jumping attacks in these boss fights, and that's because those attacks do more poise damage. You see, with big weapons that deal heavy poise damage, in combination with the Flask of Hard Alcohol's tears that add to the poise damage, you get way more knockdowns for a riposte. To add further to it, I'm using talismans like the Axe Talisman and the Claw Talisman to give my charge R2s and jump attacks more beef. Plus, as an added bonus, all of the Great Katanas have a natural bleed status proc as well. Every bleed proc does about 10% of the enemy's maximum HP. So yeah, I told you these weapons were good. All Great Katanas are now level 7 by this point, and this will be the first showcase of the Rakshasa's Great Katana. My favorite Great Katana is the Dragon Hunter's, but the Rakshasa has a much better charged R2 for this build. It's a forward stabbing move that's much quicker than the weird R2 the Dragon Hunter has. So for this fight, I used both. Morgott. One of my favorite boss fights in Elden Ring. This fight can be a kind of hard fight due to his wide range of attacks, but once you pick up on the big ones, it feels like a really fair fight. Also, he hits hard, but he doesn't have a lot of health, so I feel like Morgott is pretty balanced. That being said, he is one of the hardest bosses for me, so I usually have to spend at least 30 minutes fighting him. By my standard, I would consider that difficult, but I'm curious what other people have experienced with him. Is he hard for you too? As far as the fight goes, there's not much to tell you besides be patient. You'll see me trying to go in at every moment possible, and with weapons as slow as these, you really can't do that. I get hit a lot here. There are a few combos Morgott does where he catches his breath at the end of it, and it gives you plenty of time to punish. If your health stat is low, you'll likely die pretty fast, so just be patient and wait. Morgott was born of the golden lineage between Godfrey and Queen Marika, with his twin brother Mohg as a cursed omen. These are royal bloods, born with twisted horns all around their bodies, and without the blessing of the Erd Tree. This resulted in them being confined to the subterranean shunning grounds below the capital. But unlike his brother, Morgott would renounce his accursed blood, sealing it away within a warped blade of shimmering hue, which was in turn concealed within the wooden staff he carried. After Queen Marika shattered the Elden Ring, Morgott claimed one of the Great Runes, which proved that he was indeed the Lord of Leyndell. And with Leyndell being in disarray, Morgott claimed the city, defending it and the Erd Tree against his fellow demigod. Even with his efforts, the Erd Tree still rejected him and would not admit him or anyone else to claim the title Elden Lord. And despite all of that, Morgott still took it upon himself to become the Erd Tree's protector. Honestly, I've got to give it to him. Morgott is a dedicated being. Even when he's been rejected on all fronts, he still wants to be an Elden Lord, and he keeps trying with no end in sight. It's very anime of him. It's a shame that he's not the main protagonist in this show, though. Uncle Chopper is, for some reason. Next, we have the Fire Giant. One of my least favorite boss fights due to his immense health pool. The reason that bothers me is because it's a lot harder to do challenge runs when you have an enemy with almost 43,000 health. So for the average person, that's actually probably not an issue. Thankfully, with the Great Katanas, it doesn't matter. Because we have Bleed, baby! When you have a status-affecting weapon, this fight can be really scripted. The first thing I do is go for the leg brace on his left leg. An easy task for a poise-breaking build. Next, we attack the weak leg, getting in as many hits as possible to stack up the bleed until the Fire Giant's Phase 2 begins. After that, we go for the hands for the last stagger. Get a riposte on the sad eye, and finish it off by attacking only his feet from the back. In the second phase, the Fire Giant has weak spots on his arms where his skin is torn that you can hit if he chooses to swing his arms. Hitting those weak spots is the proper way to fight, and don't get me wrong, it's not difficult or anything, but we can very safely avoid all of his attacks just by being behind him at his feet. He doesn't take very much damage when you hit him from this position, but if you have bleed, it's not really an issue. Now, as you finish watching what I literally just told you, let's talk about the Fire Giant. To my surprise, there's very little lore on the Fire Giant. I assumed because they tend a flame strong enough to burn the Erd Tree that there would have been some deep dive into their total extinction. A little confused there. There was once a ton of giants here in the north. Marika ordered Godfrey and the Crucible Knights to kill them, and then for some reason Marika left one alive, which I don't understand at all. I can't think of a single reason to keep any of them alive. It doesn't even say how she forced him to stay. It just literally says she cursed him to tend the flame for eternity. But that was literally what they were doing already. So I don't even know why this dude is still here. Either he's a depressed hive mind of a creature, or he's an idiot. And now he's been relieved by your drunk uncle. I take back what I said about the Draconic Tree Sentinel being the worst boss in the game. Actually, you know what? No. I'm adding to the list. Keep that piece of shit on it and move him down to second place. Godskin Duo is dumb, poopy garbage, and they get no lore spotlight. Uncle fought them shirtless, too. That's too much respect for them. They didn't deserve even that. I almost want to give Malakath the same treatment as Godskin Duo, but unfortunately, he's pretty metal, and when your attacks actually land, it's a pretty fair fight. He's a glass cannon, hits like a truck but takes significant damage, and doesn't have a ton of health. For this fight, out of the 3 Great Katanas, you definitely want to use Rakshasas, because it has a higher DPS than the regular Great Katana, and has the stabbing charged R2, which is an ideal move to use if we're trying to poise break a boss. I'm sure most people who have fought Beast Clergyman a few times know about his ridiculous hurt boxes. There are times where you are literally pressing up against his body, and for some reason, when you swing, you whiff. Like trying to strike a hologram. I promise the extra reach from the weapon goes a long way here. Moving on to Malakath's lore, holy shit. I wasn't lying, this guy is metal. Also, huge find, did you know that Malakath is the half-brother of Queen Marika? This dude has main character levels of a bloodline. Anyways, on Marika's orders, Malakath sealed away the Rune of Death, binding it to his blade and sealing away the true power of the god-slaying Black Flame. Marika's offspring were granted a form of immortality, owing to the removal of their fated deaths from the Elden Ring. However, there was no demigod who did not fear Malakath, and his blade imbued with death. He was a beast of such terrifying ferocity that his name came to mean Death of the demigods. He also led the Blackblade Kindred, which are those giant stone gargoyles everyone loves to fight. At some point, Ronnie the Witch stole a fragment of the Rune of Death from Malekith, which was then forged to create god-slaying black knives and used to assassinate Godwyn the Golden, who later becomes the Prince of Death. In response to this failure, Malekith binded his blade, concealing the Rune of Death into his flesh, to prevent death from ever being stolen again. Later, from the corpse of Godwyn the Golden, sprouted the Rune of Death, which then spread through the lands between in the form of Deathroot. Which is why in the game we find Malekith, who has taken another name and wrapped himself in robes of a clergyman, seeking Deathroots in exchange for bestial incantations. Suspicions confirmed. Gurranq, who we find in Caelid, is in fact Malekith. That's pretty much it for Malekith. There is a little bit more, but like always, you should check it out for yourself so you can create your own interpretations of the lore. I gotta admit though, it kind of makes sense that he's like a hologram sometimes. The dude's just him. He should be the main character, but he's just not. Alrighty, next in line is... Ew. Do I really have to talk about this guy? I don't even think Uncle Chopper needs a reason to drink his beer before fighting him. Nobody likes Gideon. Okay, I'm going to keep this section brief. One, for the sake of the video's quality, and two, because his lore really isn't about his origin, or a grand bloodline, or anything special like that. He's a Tarnished, just as Uncle is, except where Uncle has a hard time looking away from the bottom of a bottle, Gideon is conniving and a coward. If you're interested in his wrongdoings, feel free to look him up, but he's not all that special. Just a Tarnished, wishing to be Elden Lord, but lacks the plot armor to do so. As for the fight, it's like all NPC fights in Souls games. It's not good. He's pretty easy if you come at him with a real build and a high enough level to not get one-shot by his spells. Other than that, it's just a normal, kind of bad NPC fight. One cool thing about him is he will learn different spells based on some actions you take in the game. For example, if you kill Rykard, Malenia, or Mohg, he will have one additional spell for each one beaten. He has 6 spells to start with, and 7 total memory stones. So if you beat all 3 of them, he will have a total of 7 spells, and 2 new ones will replace 2 default spells. It's an interesting little thing that probably doesn't change a lot of the experience you'll have with him, but I thought it'd be cool to add. Okay, so earlier in the video we went over what I thought was only a few major points of Godfrey's lore, but it turns out it was most of the main points. However, we do have a few things to cover. First, how and why Godfrey is here in the first place. At some point in time, Hoarah did die, but he is of the race of Tarnished, and just as Uncle Chopper was, just as all players were, brought back to life by the call of their long-lost grace at the opportunity to become Elden Lord. So basically, he arose the same time we did. And we find Godfrey at the base of the Erd Tree mourning the death of Morgoth, because he intends to seek audience once again with Queen Marika and return to being the Elden Lord. Obviously, the old man's time is nigh, and he eventually loses. But I'll be honest, I think Godfrey is my favorite boss after learning about his lore. He's just a dude who was really good in battle, earned accolades, became a lord, died, came back to life, and tried to do it all over again. Even his last words towards the ones that ruined his plans and killed him again were that of an honorable man. Tarnished, your strength befits a crown. That is literally, word for word, his last sentence. Honestly, for this universe, those are signs of a pretty good dude. You know, that's good for this area, you know? As for the fight, the first half is literally the same as the Yellow Spirit version, but the second phase is pretty crazy. This part of the fight is still one I don't know all too well, so I had to be patient and wait for my openings. I really like this boss fight. I always have, but learning his story made this more of a fun experience. And the second phase was pretty intense for me. It had taken me about 30 minutes in total to beat Godfrey, and my chest was pounding at this point. This is still a very satisfying fight.
Tarnished, thy strength befits a crown.
Now, only a flashbang and a few drinks are what separates Uncle from that throne. Hopefully, where he will finally rest, and we can end this journey. There are 2 stories left to tell. One is Radagon, of which we have covered almost entirely, except for one big secret. And the second is the Elden Beast. To recap a little bit, Radagon was previously married to Rennala. In their time together, they had 3 children, Radahn, Rykard, and Ranni. Once Godfrey had died, Radagon immediately abandoned Rennala, causing her to fall into a deep depression. One so deep, she lost herself and was abandoned by her students and locked away in a grand library. Radagon and Marika had 2 children, twins, Malenia and Mikola. Both children born afflicted, Malenia with a rotting sickness, and Mikola with eternal childhood. But there's a reason they were born afflicted, and that's because Radagon is actually Marika. They are the same being, split between two bodies. Following the events of Marika's shattering the Elden Ring, she was imprisoned in the Erd Tree, while Radagon, who stayed loyal to the Golden Order, attempted to fix the Elden Ring with the same hammer used to destroy it. And although Radagon opposed Marika's treachery, he too shared her sentence, bound together into one body. Now we know why we come across Marika, strung up like a prisoner, and why, when she's finally free, her body morphs into another. The final piece to this fight is the Elden Beast. After Radagon fails to beat Uncle, his body is absorbed by the Elden Beast and created into the large sword the boss fights with. The Elden Beast's origin is that of a greater will, and is the incarnation of the concept of order. Born from a golden star that was sent to the lands between, the Elden Beast became the Elden Ring. Marika became a vassal of the Elden Ring, which granted her the ability to become a goddess. So upon her defeat, what remains is the beast itself. I'm not sure how much of this stuff you already knew, but it sure was fun to learn about it myself. If you've watched this far, tell me something about Elden Ring I didn't mention in this video. Seriously, I need more ideas for videos. I'm close to hitting 1,000 subscribers and my tank is empty. I need some gas. I do hope you enjoyed the run, maybe learn something new about the game, or at least want to pick up a great katana and play the game some more. Either way, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching this video over all the other videos on YouTube. Have a good one, buddy.